It took exactly 1 year for Rockstar to follow up the success of Liberty City Stories. They stuck with the same idea, revisiting a familiar city with returning characters and crafting a prequel that fits neatly into an existing game. And just as Liberty City Stories connects to Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City Stories is clearly a companion to, well, Vice City. I mean, the name kinda gives that one away. But don't let that 1 year turnaround fool you. This isn't just Liberty City Stories and a Hawaiian shirt. Vice City Stories added a ton of new content and features to the PSP format, building on what Liberty City Stories started. Unfortunately, it did not get the attention that it deserved. It sold fewer copies than LCS, and by the time it hit the PlayStation 2 in 2007, the PS3 was already a year old, and the Xbox 360 had already been around for about 2. The timing definitely worked against this game, and while die-hard Grand Theft Auto fans grabbed it on the PSP or the PS2, regardless of newer and better games on shinier consoles, a lot of players missed out entirely, and that's a real shame because not only is Vice City Stories the final chapter in the 3D Grand Theft Auto universe, it might just be the best one.
Comrade! Come here!
What are you doing here?
I heard there's gonna be a party, so I brought fireworks!
Vice City Stories takes us back to the neon-soaked and coke-dusted streets of Vice City in 1984, 2 years before the events of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. But instead of stepping into the shoes of an excommunicated wise guy like Tommy Vercetti, we follow the story of Victor Vance, a disciplined soldier just trying to make an honest living in the army in a corrupt world. Vic Vance isn't as notable of a character as Tony Cipriani in Liberty City was for us as an audience to relate to as a new protagonist of a game, but he still is technically a character from Vice City. You may remember him as the brother of Lance Vance, who was involved in the coke deal gone wrong at the very beginning of that game. And it's not just in the sense that Victor is different from prior protagonists either. Vic's motivations are simple and oddly sincere. He wants to support his sick brother Pete, who needs money for medication, and to provide for his struggling family, including his other brother Lance, who we know can't keep himself out of trouble, and his aunt who raised him and his brothers because, well, his father's gone missing and his mother is a crackhead. So Vic enlists in the military, hoping that it will offer him some structure and resources to provide for his family in an honest way, while keeping his nose clean of the crime that is oh so abundant in Vice City. But his plans are quickly derailed when his commanding officer, a drug-abusing, deeply unfit superior named Jerry Martinez, forces him into illegal operations, pretty much immediately. And unsurprisingly, when some contraband gets discovered on the base, it's not Sergeant Martinez that faces any consequences, but instead it's Vic that is kicked to the curb. With no money, no job, and very few options, Victor turns to the very dirty world that he tried to avoid. And what begins as small-time hustling soon escalates into a climb through the ranks of organized crime, as Vic builds his own empire while confronting betrayal, violence, and the same kind of chaos that shaped his brother Lance. Unlike the power-hungry rise of Tommy Vercetti, Vic's journey is more grounded, driven not by ambition but more out of necessity. There are several encounters where Vic isn't just doing things for a quick buck, but instead, sometimes he's just doing things because it's the right thing to do, like helping out a woman who is being abused by her redneck husband. His story adds emotional depth to the Vice City legacy, showing us a character who didn't want this life, but was forced to survive in it. And it turns out, he was pretty damn good at it.
This is a private party, pal.
Yeah? Well, this is a public execution.
Holy shit!
Developing Vice City Stories on the PlayStation Portable meant confronting the same constraints as Liberty City Stories, with limited memory, processing power, and storage on the platform, but with higher ambitions than they had for that game. Rockstar lead studio director Gordon Hall summed up their mindsets going into Vice City Stories. Grand Theft Auto has always been about raising the stakes. One of the biggest technical achievements in GTA Vice City Stories has been the enormous efforts involved in making Vice City this incredibly vibrant, detailed, and alive place. The detail of the new Vice City is enormous compared to the prior game in the city, and it's even a massive step up from what they did in Liberty City Stories. They doubled the number of polygons in a city block, meaning buildings and environments were more geometrically detailed than before. They had animated textures, neon light effects across the city, and an all-new radiosity lighting model giving more realistic lighting and shadows across the city. And even more, they had to stretch the draw distance out further to accommodate the helicopters and planes that they added to this game, allowing the player to see cars and buildings while flying across the sky. All on top of having the game run faster and much smoother than LCS as well. The team didn't have the option to simply drop in the old PlayStation 2 Vice City content. They had to rebuild and optimize the engine to handle a larger, more complex game world. And on top of that, the upgrades that they added to both the textures and the gameplay quickly outran the capabilities of what the LCS engine could perform just a year earlier. So the developers went to work on under the hood upgrades. Among a handful of tweaks and tune-ups, they devised new ways for the PSP's CPU and graphics processor to communicate, freeing up CPU cycles and pushing the graphics card even harder. They just compressed and optimized everything that they could across the board, from the creation of the art and the assets to the code of the game itself. For example, they implemented a lossless compression system for animation that allowed them to have a greater variety of cars and pedestrians on screen at once and have it actually function faster than the Liberty City Stories model. This also worked well in tandem with the wireless multiplayer mode that also carried over from LCS. And this system benefited exponentially from these engine upgrades, making that experience that much better for the players that did do the ad hoc multiplayer over their PSPs. They stretched the realm of gameplay and exploration as well by not limiting Vic Vance to just the land. Not only can he take to the skies, unlike Tony Cipriani, but he can also swim. The only 3D GTA protagonist able to do so without drowning immediately, other than CJ on the West Coast. They actually improved the water a lot in this game. Gordon Hall mentioned in an interview, "We've gone to town on the water. We've enhanced the water and boat physics programming and improved buoyancy model, which really becomes apparent if you mess around with the new jet ski." And oh yeah, they added freaking jet skis because it's Vice City, and I feel like that should have been a requirement from the jump. It was also the only GTA game to have them until GTA 5 came out many years later. Vice City Stories also added some small tweaks to the targeting system in this game, allowing smoother aiming and shooting, but also added much more variety to the unarmed combat in the game, having Vic being able to grapple with enemies, toss them, and even do execution moves similar to CJ in San Andreas. They borrowed some other features and ideas from San Andreas as well. You could recruit people into your gang of sorts and drive around with them in your car, having them able to hang outside of the car and shoot at people, and enemies also use this same mechanic against you as well, which becomes very annoying as you progress in this game. You use these guys and your posse to take over gang territory, very similar to Los Santos neighborhoods, only this time it's a business you take over instead of just some city blocks. It's like a mixture of San Andreas' gang takeovers and Vice City's business endeavors. Nonetheless, it's more fun than both of those things, and I spent countless hours in all the various different business models doing the mini games, but we'll get to that in just a moment. In a larger picture, there is less different between Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories than there is with both of these PSP titles and their PS2 predecessors. Liberty City Stories was more of Rockstar's dive into the pool of portable gaming, and Vice City Stories is them learning how to swim in the water, quite literally. Much like Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories was also ported to the PlayStation 2 in March of 2007, several months after its handheld debut. However, Vice City Stories' PS2 release was the first time in Grand Theft Auto history that a port of a game had additional in-game content. And not only did it have the usual enhanced graphics, including the iconic Trails bloom effect from the original Vice City, as well as better draw distance and performance as to be expected on the beefier your PS2 hardware. But the ports also had some new side missions and activities like various checkpoint races, some stunt jumps, and several new rampages located around the city. The first time ever that anything substantial was added to a port of a Grand Theft Auto game.
Hey, great. Quad bikes and moonshine. Let's go.
And while we're talking about the city of Vice City, it's a little bit different in 1984 compared to how we saw it 2 years later in the original Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Similar to Liberty City as we saw it in 1998 versus 2001. In 1984, there's a fairground in the middle of the city where Avery Carrington's construction takes place in 86. There's a warehouse in Little Haiti that Vic takes part in destroying, channeling like 4% of the demolition energy that Tony Cipriani used to reshape Liberty City. Early on as Vic, you'll spend a lot of time in a rundown trailer park, one that doesn't exist at all 2 years later in 1986, as it's bulldozed to make room for the much bigger Sunshine Autos complex that does exist in 84, but it's a very small car dealer. And what was once the Mendez mansion is turned into the street wannabes hideouts within 2 years' time as well. And several things have been built or are in the process of being built between the two games as well, like the Diaz mansion undergoing expansions, the Washington Mall being built from the ground up, and the construction sites near the tool store where you buy the iconic hammer that founded this channel. That also didn't exist yet. There is also some unexplained changes that make little to no sense. There's a skyscraper that the Mendez brothers operate out of in downtown that mysteriously vanished by 1986, and the same goes for all those Empire businesses that Vic runs throughout the game. And this road was there in Vice City Stories across from Sunshine Autos that makes a more direct route to the airports instead of forcing you to drive all the way around. But for some reason that road just doesn't exist 2 years later, and this probably explains Miami traffic. Overall, the Vice City in 1984 seems much more chaotic and lively, whether that's due to the game's engine handling more features, or the times just being the crazy 80s, or the combination of the two. I'm not really sure. But it is sure fun to ride around and tear the city up, and honestly, with GTA 6 bringing us back to Vice City, I can't wait to see how they reimagine all of this. If GTA 4 and 5 redefined Liberty City and San Andreas, then Vice City's overdue for its next evolution, and I'm stoked to find out what Rockstar's cooking, but I am sad that it won't be set in that 1980s charm though.
Wow! So this is where the coke is going? Up your nose?
Like Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories brings back a ton of familiar characters, but this time, most of the original voice cast actually returned, which already gives the game a major edge. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Vice City always seems like that one GTA project that everyone genuinely enjoyed working on, except, you know, the big players like Burt Reynolds and Ray Liotta, who were kinda divas on set. Philip Michael Thomas returned as Lance Vance, bringing all the swagger of Rico Tubbs back to the game once again. Professional crazy man Gary Busey plays our beloved Phil Cassidy. Danny Trejo plays the gonad-obsessed Umberto Robina. And Luis Guzman returns as angry kingpin Ricardo Diaz. We also get some new characters that were all really well done too. Like the previous couple of games, they didn't go chasing any A-list celebrities, as they stuck with mostly unknown names who delivered big and did a great job. Most notably, Vic Vance, the main man himself, is played by Dorian Missick, and while you might not recognize him for much, he absolutely nails the role. He brings a grounded, serious energy to Vic that fits the story perfectly, and the way that he banters with his brother Lance throughout the game is just key.
What have you gotten us into, you dumb shit? Bro!
Felix Solis does a great job as the crooked Jerry Martinez. Jimmy Burke as scumbag Marty J. Williams was great. Chelsea Rives as the naive Luis. And Barbara Rosenblatt as the larger-than-life Rennie. Oh, and then there's Phil Collins, who plays himself, Phil Collins, in several missions, and he even does a live performance of Feel It in the Air Tonight that you can pay money to watch as much as you want in the game. It's one of the most random but undeniably iconic moments in the series. I mean, you can't really get much more 80s than literally putting Phil Collins into your video game.
But darling, do you not feel a special connection between us? A certain magic?
No,
And I'll be honest with you, you're not really my type. Barry, is everything sorted for tonight?
And this marked the first time a real-life celebrity appeared in a Grand Theft Auto game as themselves. Not a parody or a fictionalized version, just fucking Phil Collins. And while we're on the topic of music, we can't forget the radio of Vice City Stories. It took the reins from the near perfection of Vice City in 2002 and made it even better, focusing less on celebrity radio hosts and instead offering more radio stations with even more 80s hits. And because the game is set in 1984, Rockstar carefully curated the track list to match that era, so any songs released after 84 were dropped from the stations and replaced with slightly older cuts that still hit just as hard. It's a subtle touch, but it shows how much care went into making the city feel like a real moment in time. They had over 100 tracks in this game, as a made for PSP title that is just insane. And all the same radio stations exist with additions of new ones, like Vice City for Lovers that offered soul and funk like Marvin Gaye, Rick James, and Barry White. And also for whatever reason, Rockstar included an option to link your own MP3 tracks to the game and create a custom radio station. I'm not sure who looked at one of the best soundtracks in the series and thought, yeah, but what if I played my own music instead? But it is there if you want to. Vice City Stories is fundamentally a Grand Theft Auto game. Big surprise. The same open world crime sandbox mechanics exist, and honestly, not much has changed from Liberty City Stories when it comes to the major gameplay beats in the game. However, unlike Liberty City Stories, the gameplay of Vice City Stories didn't feel quite as neutered when compared to previous entries. There were like a dozen or more features stripped from the series once we got the Liberty City Stories game, and while a couple of those features show their face again in Vice City, like being able to swim, flying choppers and planes, and have some more in-depth fighting options, the vast majority of them are still non-existent. But for some reason, it doesn't seem to matter as much in this game. That could just be because Vice City Stories adds a lot of its own content and gameplay features, or maybe because going from LCS to this feels like a big upgrade compared from going from San Andreas to LCS. For one, the cutscenes were much better in this game. Faces were always animated fully, and characters weren't relentlessly facing away from the camera when speaking. They also added more vehicles to the game, which is always welcome. But of course, the most notable ones are the flying ones. There are like 15 different planes and helicopters in this game, and the jet skis, on top of like 10 different types of boats as well. But also the quad bike, this sick six-wheeled ATV, a hovercraft, and the humble bicycle make a welcome appearance as well, putting Liberty City Stories' edition of motorcycles to shame. Rockstar also decided to ditch the more bite-sized mission structures of Liberty City Stories and add more substance to the missions in Vice City Stories, and also increase the variety of tasks by a lot, making them more entertaining and mechanically different, sometimes to a fault, like driving around a forklift of explosive boomshine around a rapidly burning down garage, or saving someone from a bullet-ridden car pursuit using a giant magnet attached to a helicopter. These missions were unique, sure, but they were also incredibly aggravating because the mechanics were so different and honestly not really that polished. They still wanted to appeal to the handheld nature of gameplay with the title though, and stuffed this game full of side content like a boat on the way to the port of Vice City. After all, the PSP is meant to just be pick up and go anyway. You got your series standards like vehicle missions, vigilante, medic, taxi, and firefighter, but this game had several unique ones too, like air rescue and fire chopper, which is essentially medic and firefighter missions using a helicopter, and then beach patrol, which is Vic taking the role of a lifeguard on the beaches, saving drowning swimmers in the ocean and injured people on the beach. We do lose the food delivery jobs and the garbage man jobs from Liberty City Stories, but I think the replacements here are much better. There are rampages, stunt jumps, and hidden packages scattered across the city in the form of red balloons, and of course the street races and checkpoint stunt missions were there too. There was no RC car missions this go around, but I don't think a single person is bummed about that. There are also a few unique challenges to keep you busy as well. Flying tourists around on a helicopter sightseeing tour, using an attack helicopter to destroy targets, causing tons of damage with either a semi-truck or a bus, hit up up Phil's shooting range, practice your golf game at the swingers club, or turn in wanted car models to the civil asset forfeiture impound lot for some cash. And I'd say all this is about on par with what Liberty City Stories had to offer, and again, these types of challenges and mini games were extremely well suited to the PlayStation Portable's portable format. But the big change that Vice City Stories had to offer was the empire building mechanic. In the game, you can build a criminal empire using businesses throughout the city. You can either buy rundown lots and build on them, or take over existing businesses that were operated by rival gangs in the city, like the Sharks, the Cholos, or the Bikers. It sort of functions like a mix between gang territories from San Andreas and the assets from Vice City. You can take over a territory if it's owned by rivals by killing a bunch of them in a shootout, and once you have the property owned, you can then develop on it and build some sort of criminal enterprise there. Each business can be upgraded with 3 tiers depending on your funds. It can be small time, a medium venture, or a high roller. And this affects not only the size of the property, but also how many gang members hang around to defend it from rival attacks, but also how much money it makes on a daily basis as well. Like the gang territories in San Andreas, rival gangs can attack and take the property back from you. So like in that game, you'll get random alerts that say your empire is under attack and you have to respond to defend it, and if you don't for a few times, you will lose that property, and as a result, all of that income from that property. Each property can be developed into one of 6 different business models. You get a protection racket, a loan sharking racket, prostitution ring, drug running operation, or smuggling or robbery. Each business has a different appearance and company car parked outside of it, and most importantly, different minigames associated with it. The more levels of the business minigames that you complete, the more money that the business will make you, and also you unlock some snazzy new outfits when you rank all the way up. The jobs are what you might expect them to be. Protection racket has you going around and extorting business owners for protection money and in turn protecting them from gang attacks. Loan sharking has you repossessing vehicles from people that you lent money to. Prostitution is essentially just the pimping missions from San Andreas, just protecting your girls from crazy Johns. Drug running has you setting up drug deals and occasionally battling the DEA. Smuggling has you gathering packages by boat dropped from helicopters, and robbery is usually hijacking a security car or sometimes stealing a briefcase of cash from a mark. These missions are all more fun than I thought they would be, and the progression of completing the jobs was rewarding not only for the cash, but also once you own all the businesses in the game, the cars out front of the businesses become bulletproof, which becomes incredibly handy throughout the game. There is, without a doubt, dozens of hours of fun to be had in this game, just in side content alone. But without further ado, let's get into the story of the game and see if Vice City Stories lives up to its legacy as a prequel to one of the most beloved entries into the series. And as always, skip ahead if you're trying to avoid spoilers or if you just don't care about hearing the story. The game starts with our protagonist, Corporal Victor Vance, arriving at Fort Baxter in Vice City, being serenaded by the opening to Foreigner's I Wanna Know What Love Is. He heads inside the main office to introduce himself to his superior, Sergeant Jerry Martinez, who is incredibly lax with the rules of the military, something that rubs Vic the wrong way, as a somewhat newbie to the armed forces and someone who has had some strict rules hammered into him. And it is of note that this is the most professional that we will see Martinez, as most of the next encounters with him have him snorting lines of coke or watching bestiality porn as he talks to Vic.
Hey, that is not an appropriate way to speak to a superior officer. Now get on with it, come on.
Martinez asks Victor why he joined the army, and Vic explains that he has to take care of his brothers, one being sick in need of medication, and the other sick in the head and in need of some guidance. Martinez, being the beacon of moral decay that he is, instantly offers Vic an off-the-books side gig. Vic refuses as he's not into that life, but Jerry casually brushes that off, telling him to just go pick up a package at the airport, a simple errand. So Vic heads to meet some guy in a pastel suit stepping off of a private jet and hops on his yacht to get this package for his sergeant. And this guy is clearly some sort of drug smuggler or something, and it's more apparent that this meeting isn't on the up and up as soon as a couple of boats with armed men start shooting at them, forcing Vic to jump and swim back to shore, getting back to his barracks and stashing the package under his bed. Vic shows up upset to Martinez the next day, telling him that he needs to get rid of this package as he doesn't like being around drugs, and the fact that he has them hidden in his barracks is a problem, and Martinez just tells him to chill out.
Chill the fuck out, my friend. You're really getting on my nerves.
Seeing how Vic has a moral issue with drugs, Martinez tasks him with working with guns for now, sending him to meet with a local arms dealer in the city to get some money. This man is the one and only Phil Cassidy, as this outing quickly goes to shit as well, as Vic has to kill a bunch of cholos to get the money that Phil has stashed under the floorboards of his old apartment. This apartment is also given to Vic by Phil once he does this, becoming our first safe house. Vic grabs the money and heads back to the base to see what else Jerry has in store for him. After dabbling in drugs and guns, Martinez completes the corruption trifecta by asking Vic to pick up a hooker named Mary from a party on Starfish Island. So Vic heads there, takes out a couple guys who object to the escort being borrowed, and drives her back in a stolen Infernus. Because, of course, nothing says military professionalism like pulling up to base in a hot sports car with a lady of the night in the passenger seats. And from here, shit obviously hits the fan. He's intercepted by a superior officer, they found the weed under his bed, and with Mary riding shotgun, there's no talking his way out of this. The army throws the book at him. He's immediately discharged and labeled a disgrace, and tossed out onto the streets of Vice City with nothing. With Victor Vance kicked out of the military and his honest intentions shattered, he's left with almost nothing. The only real contact that he has is Phil Cassidy, so that's where he turns. Phil is as charming as ever.
Lower your pants and prepare to cry. I'm gonna give you a shotgun suppository.
Whoa! Phil! It's me! Vic!
Oh my!
Vic Vance.
Vic! Why didn't you say so? Good to see you, brother. Come here. Let me squeeze a fart out of you.
He has work for Vic, but it's really just using Vic as muscle to help in his personal feud that he has with the Mexican cholos that have taken over his honest Vice City. Vic escorts Phil around town doing drive-bys on cholo gang members. He helps save his treasured boomshine from destruction after cholos light his storage shed on fire, and soon enough Martinez starts showing his face around Phil's place too, giving work to Phil, which in turn gives work to Vic.
You work for Phil, and Phil works for me, which makes you my bitch's bitch. Figure that out.
After some arguing back and forth, Vic is clearly mad about being dishonorably discharged, and Martinez says that he was just covering his own ass, and he still works for him because he still needs the money. So Vic and Phil find a truck carrying guns into the city and hijack it under Martinez's orders, and the next day he tasks them with checking on the products in some garage in downtown. But when they arrive, they are ambushed by gunmen hired by Martinez to kill them. Clearly they outgrew their usefulness to Jerry, and he wants these loose ends tied up. They make their way back to Phil's, and Phil decides to lay low for a little bit, but he tells Vic about his brother-in-law named Marty, who may have some work for him, so that's who he reaches out to next. Marty is, in short, a racist asshole. He lives in a trailer park and runs a gang called the Trailer Park Mafia, so he is also a staple in originality. Vic goes up to Marty's trailer and he's greeted by Luis, Phil's sister and Marty's wife, who is hesitant to speak to Victor, before Marty pulls up and starts threatening Luis for not cleaning up around outside, calling Luis a bitch and Vic a boy all in one sentence, really hammering home his scumbag demeanor.
Friend of Phil's? Well, why didn't you say so, boy? I'm Marty J. Williams.
I was too busy watching you threaten your wife.
Vic starts working for Marty, who runs a few different rackets in the city, like a protection and loan sharking business, and Vic becomes simple muscle for those operations. He also helps Marty take down rival cholo spots and open up new businesses like prostitution, working with Marty and his gang to get it all done, and the gang being just as charming as Marty himself.
How high can you jump, boy?
Boy? Oh, you're pretty tough, you inbred piece of white trash. Why don't you come down here and ask me that again, huh?
I ain't scared of you.
Oh, yeah? Then why is your voice cracking, boy?
Over the course of meeting with Marty and doing his jobs, Luis leaves him for being an asshole. I mean, he straight up said he was gonna whore her out for doing aerobics exercises, so she reaches out to Victor for help once she's settled at her sister's apartment. She doesn't need help so much as she just needs someone to talk to, and Vic just so happens to take a liking to her, and in order to cheer her up, they go out on a fun day of quad racing around the trailer park. And the next day she realizes that she left some things back at Marty's trailer, and she asks Vic to escort her over there so Marty gives her no problems. Marty isn't there, but the rest of his trailer park boys are, and Vic handles them, picking sides with Luis even though Marty was steady work, and that decision is final. As soon enough, Marty kidnaps Luis to trick her out, and Vic has to go save her, killing Marty in the process, and initially she's upset.
I can't believe you killed him. How am I gonna look after my baby now?
You what? Marty was an asshole. He treated you worse than shit.
She's worried about money, and Marty was the only one running the operations around the city for her, so her solution is to have Vic take over his businesses. By force, of course, and in turn cementing his lifestyle in this corrupt city, becoming the leader of corrupt businesses in order to support his brothers and, well, now Luis. And other than running the businesses and protecting them, like when the cat house gets set on fire, Vic only has one other job that he does for Luis for now, and it's scaring off a child protective services worker who was threatening to take her kids from her for being a bad parent. And well, he also offered to have Luis do sexual favors for him in order for him to forget it, so obviously Vic had to handle it. Vic also gets in touch with one of Marty's former associates, Umberto Robina. Like Phil, Umberto is another familiar face for fans of the series. He runs the Cuban street gang in the city, and he is obsessed with balls. Vic goes to him to ensure that Umberto will work with him just like he worked with Marty, but first he has to prove to Umberto that he has the balls to do so. First, he has Vic retrieve a package-shaped package for him while fighting off others trying to do the same. He also has the same back and forth with the cholos in the neighborhood like Phil did. Vic kills even more cholos around the city, and then the cholos retaliate and kidnap Umberto's dad, so you have to go save him. And then as the final punch, Vic helps the Cubans blow up the cholo warehouse in Little Haiti that they use as a weapons dump.
Umberto Rubina says, you are a true friend. You can count on me for anything. I love you, man. Like a son or a dog.
In the meantime, Vic gets a page that tells him that someone is waiting for him at the airport, so he heads over there to see who it is. It's an unhappy surprise for Vic, as it's his younger brother Lance.
You don't sound so pleased.
I'm not so pleased.
Lance decided to head to Vice City after hearing Vic got booted from the army in order to help him in his new enterprises. Their reunion is short-lived though, as they soon get ambushed by some cholos that Vic has been fucking with since he got to the city. After escaping, he drops Lance off at his hotel for now, until Lance soon reaches out with some opportunities. Lance found a contact named Forbes that is running drugs in the city, and as an audition for working for him, he has Lance retrieve a car from an impound lot that is stuffed with drugs. With the job being a success though, Forbes meets with the brothers and has a bigger job for them. He has Vic get a van and go to a storage garage that is under police surveillance, where Forbes has another van full of drugs. He then has Vic leave as a decoy to lead all these cops away while he and Lance bring the other van out to safety. This golden opportunity of working for Forbes is quickly spoiled when Lance finds out that Forbes is a corrupt DEA agent, so they confront him about it, and when he runs, they grab him and tie him up and leave him in a rundown building to see what he knows about other drug operations in the city. Forbes tells them about a drug deal going on in a boat down the street, and his information wasn't exactly up to date because these guys captured Lance and almost take some chainsaws to him, but Vic saves him in time and they grab the coke that they had anyway. It got done, but it was a little sloppy. They give Forbes one more chance to see if he knows anything, and he tells them about a drug deal that's going to happen at a gay bikers club down the road. But this turns out to be a lie as well, as the bikers just want to kill them once they arrive and maybe sleep with Vic.
I want to bear back the little one. Ah, shit!
On the way back to Forbes, they find out that he's escaped and he's on the run, so they hunt him down and kill him. He wasn't really much good for them anyway. After this failure on Lance's watch, Vic is pissed at his brother and is arguing with him at the hotel when their crackhead mom walks in and tries to rekindle her relationship with her sons. Or most likely she found out they were in the drug game and she's just here to get a little taste. Either way, Lance and Vic soon leave to head to the airport to meet with a drug dealer that's leaving town to get a file on a huge drug shipment that's coming in. Another solid source of information from the one and only Lance Vance. Once the brothers show up, the guy had already sold the file off to some other guy, so the Vance brothers go take it by force, or really Vic does all the heavy lifting.
I could have used a little help out here, ass brain.
This file has some information on a massive drug shipment coming into town, but now Vic is hesitant. He doesn't want to deal in drugs, but once he finds out whose coke it is, he changes his tune. The name on the file is none other than Jerry Martinez, his corrupt sergeant that ruined his career. It's his shipments coming in, so this is enough to make Vic game to the plan, if for nothing else than to screw over Martinez. They get to the docks and kill all the guards there and steal 2 giant trucks full of cocaine, but it's not that easy. Martinez starts to follow them in a military helicopter, trying to shoot them down, and even more armed men on the street pursue them as well, until they make it to Lance's new house on the other side of Vice City in Ocean Beach, unlocking the second island at this point in the game. So now they have the drugs, and while Lance is loving the lifestyle of being a coke kingpin, Vic wants to get rid of the stuff as soon as possible, but not before calling Martinez to gloat about ripping him off. But he soon learns that Martinez was just the shepherd and the whole white sheep belongs to the Mendez brothers, the biggest, most dangerous drug lords in Vice City. So Martinez tells him that they're all dead now, and he decides to turn state and confess it all to the feds in order to save his own skin, burying the Vance brothers even deeper than when they began. Lance's plan is to still sell the coke and then use that money to pay off the feds and stop anything that the Mendez brothers throw at them. So he and Vic meet with some movie director that agrees to buy the coke, so it all seems well. But when they get back home, the coke is gone, or most of it is, and so is their mother's stuff. She up and left with who knows how many kilos of coke, screwing over her own 2 sons. Soon enough, the Mendez brothers reach out and offer a sit down to the Vance brothers. Kind of a hostile takeover where they force the Vances to work for them and find out who stole all of their coke. Lance tells them that it was Martinez. Since he is turning himself in, they go and get some photos of him meeting with the DEA agents, and they use Forbes' ID to make a fake one for Martinez in order to tell the Mendez brothers that Martinez was a DEA agent this whole time and he seized the coke. After this, the Mendez brothers still make Vic do some work for them. He does the usual stuff. He kills some bikers who haven't paid their debts, takes out some rival dealers who happen to be girls in bikinis, and even steals some containers of coke from a police lockup using a helicopter with a giant magnet on it. And then saves Armando Mendez from some angry bikers using that same magnet. Gotta be one of the most aggravating missions in the game for sure. Vic heads back to help Lance out with some things after pleasing the Mendez brothers enough to not get killed by them, and they even allow the Vance brothers to keep dealing some coke under them. Lance finds out that his place is bugged, so Vic heads to different police stations and destroys all the antennas that they have to stop the recordings, and he kills some bikers who have been bad for business. But soon enough, the Vance family empire starts to crumble. Lance has been sniffing more coke than he's selling, and not only that, he's been partying with Louise and has been giving her coke as well. Right after Vic was telling him how much he misses her and hasn't been able to see her because he's so busy. So needless to say, Vic is pretty mad at Lance, and Lance is just tripping balls off cocaine. So he decides that it's his coke, and he can do whatever he wants with it. So he decides to hop in a helicopter and drop off kilos all around Ocean Beach, forcing Vic to tail him and pick up all the packages that he drops. Lance then goes into hibernation after his bender and forgets what he's done.
Did I do anything stupid in the last few days?
Stupid? Oh, no. You passed stupid and kept on going. Straight on into fucked up.
And while the brothers have been feuding, Martinez has come out of witness protection to get back at Vic, and he decides to hit him where it hurts by going after Louise, kidnapping and torturing her before Vic is able to rescue her. With things ramping up, Vic decides it's time to really hunker down and try to sell all this coke that they have and then skip town. So the next contact he goes to is an eccentric producer of commercials named Rennie Wasselmeyer, an androgynous free spirit who loves cocaine. He does a few jobs for Rennie. He becomes a stunt driver for one of her commercials, twice, and he helps out a few of Rennie's friends. One being a guy named Barry, who's a manager for the one and only Phil Collins, but he's also wanted by loan sharks for gambling debts, so Vic protects Barry and Phil as they come to the city and during one of Phil's concerts. And Vic also helps out a guy named Gonzalez, who works for another drug dealer named the Colonel, both of whom we know from Vice City, as Tommy is invited to the Colonel's boat early on and he kills Gonzalez with a chainsaw. Vic does a few jobs for Gonzalez. He helps them get their drugs into Vice Sports, and he delivers a van full of coke to one of his lockups. A job done on the side from the Colonel, or the reason that Tommy Vercetti kills Gonzalez 2 years later under orders from the Colonel. Some nice background details, but the work for Gonzalez is short-lived. Rennie soon refers Vic to yet another friend and drug dealer in the city, named Ricardo Diaz. I feel like there's way too many drug dealers in this city. We know Diaz as the one and only kingpin of Vice City by 1986, at least until Tommy and Lance take him down. But now, in 1984, like I said, he has a lot of competition, but he is hard at work putting a stop to that. Diaz finds out about Gonzalez's side deals under the Colonel, so he has Vic go and steal a boat full of yayo from him, and then takes all that stolen coke and makes a deal with the DEA to turn it in for an exchange for some serious guns. The DEA takes the drug seizure as a win, and Diaz gets armed to the teeth. This partnership with Diaz sparks a war in the city, because now the Mendez brothers, who were just starting to see the Vances as allies, feel betrayed. So they kidnap them and take them to a fuel depot to be executed. But the dumb triggermen shoot the fuel lines and cause an explosion, allowing the brothers to escape. The Mendezes don't stop there though. They run a citywide attack on all of Vic's businesses, and Vic has to call in all of his friends to help defend them, including Umberto and Phil Cassidy, a fun reunion mission. After defending this attack, he also gets the chance to pick up Louise from the hospital after her attack from Martinez, sort of mending their relationship. Now, it's time for them to get back at the Mendez brothers. Vic uses some high-tech robot called the Domestobot that the Mendezes bought to clean their house and light their cigars. Vic hijacks the bot and uses it to burn the bearer bonds that the Mendezes have in their safe, financially ruining them. But this war isn't just limited to the drug dealers. The Mendez brothers go after Rennie too, out of all people, because she introduced Vic to Diaz. So Vic has to escort Rennie safely to the hospital because she has also decided it's time for her to have her 4th sex change. He then takes her over to the airport because she's skipping town, and we later hear her as a radio host in Liberty City Stories, so she's doing okay over a decade later. Tragedy strikes a little closer to home as well. Luis is kidnapped and taken to the Mendez mansion, so Lance and Vic race over there to save her. Lance running in recklessly in a coke-fueled rampage, and Vic going in more calculated, killing Armando Mendez and saving Lance. But unfortunately, Luis does die in the house.
We could have had something special.
Yeah. We did have something special.
Make sure Mary Jo takes care of my baby.
Louise.
So this is the last straw. There is still one more Mendez brother to kill, and he's hiding out in their building in downtown Vice City. So Vic heads back to Fort Baxter one last time, and he steals an attack helicopter in order to bring an assault to Mendez. He also tells Diaz that he is done working for him and this is his last job, and Diaz could care less. He will own this town once all these people are dead, so he has no qualms with Vic leaving. At least that's what he says for now. Vic fires rockets at the skyscraper, killing a bunch of goons until he's hit with a rocket himself, and he's forced to land on the rooftop and take to the building with old-fashioned gun in hand. Or in my case, a minigun. Running floor to floor, chasing Mendez until he makes his way back up to the rooftop. And he's confronted with not only the remaining Mendez brother, but also Jerry Martinez, who has come to try and get revenge of his own on Vic for forcing him into selling out. I still had a minigun in my hands from clearing all the floors, so it's kind of hilarious how fast both of them get obliterated. Lance then shows up fashionably late after everyone is dead and pretends that he is there to help. But still, the brothers celebrate. It's over. Everyone is dead and they are free to leave. They can skip town and forget all this shit. That is until Lance tells Vic that he got a hold of 20 kilos of coke, so it's really never over. Vic tells Lance to get rid of it and he's done, and Lance says that's cool and they fly off. And that's where the game ends. Kind of a happy ending for the brothers until you realize that 2 years later, they did try to sell that coke at the drug deal in the beginning of Vice City, the one that goes tits up. Lance and Vic are the ones meeting up with Tommy. Lance flying the chopper and Vic handling the drugs. And in the ambush, Vic gets shot and killed. And it leads to the events of that game. For one reason or another, Vic decides to sell these 20 kilos of coke off with Lance years later after barely making it out of the city alive. Probably because Lance never quits pestering him. Lance is full of impulsive decisions and terrible ideas, and he would never have stopped trying to rope his brother into doing one last deal. Vice City Stories' tale of Victor is just like the tale of Tony Cipriani in Liberty City Stories. It's a story of someone who is just trying to survive. Hell, it's even sadder if you think about it. Tony is just trying to be a respected man in the Leone family, but he's still a mobster through and through. And Vic is just trying to get some cash for his sick brother. But unlike Tony, he tries to do it on the up and up. He joins the army and he tries to make an honest living, giving his limited opportunities of a man from a broken home. Two brothers who can't help themselves, no father, and a mother who's addicted to drugs. But that sense of order crumbles fast. After being set up by his corrupt superior officer, Sergeant Jerry Martinez, Vic is dishonorably discharged and left with nothing. Out of options and desperate for cash, he's dragged into the criminal underworld of Vice City. He deals with various gangs across the city and then gets even deeper into the drug game with the cartels and kingpins running his life, nearly killing him and whatever friends he made along the way, including Louise, another innocent life who was just roped up into this criminal underworld, with her husband Marty running the trailer park mafia, and then Vic, who didn't really do much better, but at least he wasn't an asshole. Vic spends the rest of the game slowly becoming the kind of man that he tried not to be, forced to choose survival over morality. And just 2 years later in GTA Vice City, it all ends. In the game's opening cutscene, Vic is the man who gets gunned down during the infamous drug deal gone wrong. The very same deal that launches Tommy Vercetti's rise to power. There's no fanfare, no grand farewell. He's killed off screen, treated as a disposable side character. At the time, players didn't know who he was. I mean, honestly, Rockstar didn't know who he was either, which is why there was no emphasis on him. But after playing Vice City Stories, that moment just hits differently. It's not just a nameless drug dealer getting whacked, it's a man who fought against his own dissent, only to die in the same drug-fueled cycle that he once tried to avoid. Victor Vance's story is one of quiet tragedy. He didn't die chasing glory, he died because in Vice City no good deed goes unpunished, and no one outruns the game forever. His story retroactively gives Vice City's opening a weight that it never had before, and it makes Vice City Stories one of the best tales that Rockstar ever told. Vice City Stories represents the culmination of Rockstar's handheld ambitions. Following the success of Liberty City Stories, the game took everything that LCS did and made it bigger and better. It was arguably the most advanced open world game ever released on a handheld system, with flyable helicopters, swimmable water, jet skis, empire building, and over 100 licensed songs. It pushed the PSP to its absolute limits. Even critics who weren't blown away by Liberty City Stories were surprised at how polished and feature-rich Vice City Stories was. It felt less like a scaled-down Grand Theft Auto and more like a full-fledged entry cleverly disguised as a portable game. The PlayStation 2 port a year later gave it wider accessibility, but then GTA 4's hype was rising, and Vice City Stories got quietly swept aside in the wake of this oncoming HD era of Grand Theft Auto. Despite its strengths, Vice City Stories never reached the heights of other 3D GTA titles in sales or cultural impact. Part of that came down to timing. It launched late in the PSP's life, and the PS2 port arrived just as players were shifting focus to the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 era. Many GTA fans simply just missed the game, and Rockstar never re-released it on modern consoles, meaning that there's really no official way to play it today, beyond digging out a PSP or a PlayStation 2 or just relying on emulation. It was a digital title available for a few years on the PlayStation 3 through the PlayStation Network, but that was very short-lived. It's likely due to the licensing contracts that aren't easily circumvented, as there is a main mission in the game that is literally just Phil Collins performing in the air tonight. So it's not really an easy workaround if that becomes an issue, but Rockstar isn't very open with why they don't re-release this game or port it. They just don't do it. Because of that, Vice City Stories has become a cult classic, loved by those who experienced it, but often absent from mainstream conversations about the franchise. In many ways, it's the best Grand Theft Auto game that no one talks about. But those who do, they do remember it fondly, and they know that Vice City Stories deserves a hell of a lot more recognition than it ever got. With that being said, that is the end of the 3D Grand Theft Auto universe. And if you aren't aware, the whole Grand Theft Auto franchise is broken up into 2D, 3D, and HD titles, with the 3D universe having the most titles so far, going from 2001 with Grand Theft Auto 3 all the way up to 2006 with Vice City Stories. So 6 titles total, and I've covered them all, minus Grand Theft Auto Advance from 2004, but personally, I feel like that title doesn't really fit in with the rest of these 3D games, but I may end up covering it anyway. If not as an individual video, then as a chapter in the 3D Universe Supercut video that I plan to do with all of these videos in the future. Similar to how I covered the Dead to Rights games without a dedicated video to their PSP title, Dead to Rights Reckoning. I don't plan on stopping here either. I'm going to move forward with Grand Theft Auto 4 and its expansions, and then Grand Theft Auto 5 as well as many other games, but that's just my plans for the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Hopefully all before 6 is released, but we shall see. Those games are massive and may take a very long time. It already takes me long enough to make videos like this on games that aren't nearly as long as those, so who knows how long it'll take. But trust, I am trying. I have already played and recorded all of Grand Theft Auto 4, and I'm in the process of writing the script, so we'll see. The wheels are moving. I want to thank you all for your patience. I know my uploads are slow and inconsistent, but this isn't my full-time job. I am just trying my best. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate you. If you support me on YouTube memberships or on Patreon, I appreciate you. And as always, I appreciate you for watching. I hope to see you next time. Peace.